Here is part 1 written in simple, natural English. As a continuous document without headings, human-centric, safe for YouTube, and without using restricted names, the small town where the girl lived was quiet most days. The kind of place where the same sounds echoed again and again. Children running along the street, an old cart rolling past, a distant radio playing from a neighbor's window. These were the things that painted her world. She could not see any of them, but she recognized every sound as if it were part of her own heartbeat. Her name was Lena, and she had been blind since birth. She never knew the shape of a face or the color of the sky, but she knew the sound of her mother's footsteps, the whisper of the wind outside her home, and the gentle hum of the piano that stood in the corner of their small living room. That piano was older than she was. Its wood was scratched, its keys faded, and a few of the strings needed repair, but to Lena, it was the most beautiful thing in the world. The piano had been gifted to her years ago by a kind neighbor who noticed how she reacted to music. Whenever a song played, whether on the radio or from someone passing by, Lena would tilt her head, listening with the kind of focus most people didn't have, even when they used all their senses. It was as if her mind painted pictures from sound alone. She could feel emotions inside melodies, footsteps, the rustle of leaves, and even the rhythm of her own breathing. When the neighbor brought the piano to their home, Lena's mother worried it would take up too much space. But once Lena touched the keys for the first time, she knew they had made the right choice. Her fingers moved slowly at first, pressing one key at a time. She could not tell which key was which by sight, but she learned each note by its voice, memorizing them one after another. Day after day, she practiced. While other children spent their afternoons running outside or playing games, Lena sat at the piano, her legs barely reaching the floor, pressing keys until she knew the sound of each note, as well as she knew the sound of her own name. She did not have a teacher back then. Everything she learned came from listening, feeling, and trying. Her mother often stood quietly behind her, amazed at how much pure emotion flowed out of someone so young. She never forced Lena to practice. The girl simply loved it. The piano became her friend, her comfort, and the place where she felt the world open up in front of her, even if she could not see it. One afternoon, Lena heard her mother talking to someone outside. She paused her playing and listened. A familiar voice spoke, one she recognized as the local school music teacher. He visited their home once every few weeks to help children in the neighborhood prepare for small events. This time, his voice carried a mix of excitement and curiosity. "There is a talent show next month," the teacher said, "and I think she should join. She has something special." Lena's heart skipped. "Talent show?" Her mother hesitated. "She is shy," her mother replied softly. "She doesn't like being in places where people stare." The music teacher laughed gently. "No one will stare in a bad way. People love talent. They appreciate honesty. And Lena plays with honesty. You can hear it." Lena touched the piano keys again, pressing a soft note. She thought about a crowd, the way many voices blend together, the way footsteps echo in a big room. The idea of standing in front of so many people made her nervous. She had never been on a stage before. She had only played for her mother, the neighbor who brought the piano, and occasionally the teacher. When her mother entered the room, she could sense a question coming even before it was spoken. "Lena," her mother asked gently, "would you like to play at the talent show?" She took a moment to think. Her fingers lightly traced the piano keys. She didn't know what a stage looked like, but she imagined it sounded big and empty at first, until someone filled it with music. "I don't know," Lena said softly. "What if I make a mistake?" Her mother knelt beside her. "Everyone makes mistakes, but you have something real in your music. People will feel it." The music teacher stepped inside and spoke kindly. "You don't have to play anything difficult. Just be yourself. That is enough. His words stayed in Lena's mind long after he left. That night, she sat at the piano again. The room was quiet, except for the slow, steady breathing of her mother, who had fallen asleep on the couch. The lamp was dim, not that it mattered to Lena. She played softly, but something inside her felt different. A new melody began to form, one she had never played before, though it came slowly at first. A gentle path of notes, like someone taking careful steps in an unknown place. She played it again and again, feeling it grow. She didn't write the notes down, she couldn't. She simply remembered the way it felt under her fingertips, the emotional shape of it, the rise and fall like someone telling a story without words. The melody sounded like hope mixed with sadness. It carried her fears of being judged, her dreams of being heard, her loneliness, and her strength. It was her world, shaped into sound. When she finished, she sat quietly for a moment, listening to the last note fade. She felt something inside her shift, a new confidence, a sense that maybe she did have something worth sharing. The next morning, she told her mother she wanted to join the talent show. Her mother didn't speak right away. She simply hugged Lena tightly, as if the choice itself made her proud. From that day, Lena practiced the new melody every afternoon. She adjusted it slowly, adding small changes that felt right. She didn't rush. She didn't force anything. The music grew naturally, shaped by her feelings and the rhythm of the days leading to the show. Her world during those days felt brighter, even if she could not see the sunlight. She woke earlier, eager to practice. Her mother smiled more, watching her daughter glow with purpose. Even neighbors noticed the difference in the house. People passing by could hear the melody through the thin walls, pausing to listen before continuing their day. But it wasn't just the sound that changed. Lena herself changed. She stopped worrying about people whispering or doubting her. She realized something important. Sound was her world, and she understood it better than anyone around her. She didn't need eyes to play. She didn't need to see an audience to reach them. Music did not depend on sight. A week before the show, the music teacher visited again. When he heard the new melody, he stood completely still, letting it wash over him. When she finished, he exhaled slowly, as though he had been holding his breath. He said softly, "Is something people will never forget." Lena felt her cheeks warm. She wasn't used to praise, but she believed him, not because he said it, but because she felt the melody inside her. It felt true. The day before the show, Lena's mother ironed her clothes carefully, choosing a simple dress. She brushed Lena's hair gently, telling her she would look lovely. Lena touched the fabric of the dress. She didn't know its color, but she liked how it felt. That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay quietly, listening to the sounds of the house. The wind outside. A dog barking somewhere far away. Her own heartbeat, steady but fast. She wondered how it would feel to sit on a stage, how the room would sound when everyone fell silent, waiting for her to play. She wasn't afraid anymore, just nervous in a good way. A nervousness that meant something mattered. Before she fell asleep, she whispered to herself, "Tomorrow, they will hear me. Even if they don't see me, they will hear me." And that was enough. The next morning would bring the talent show, the crowd, and the moment she had never imagined before. But for now, Lena rested with the soft echo of her melody playing inside her mind. As warm and comforting as a familiar voice calling her home. It was the beginning of something she did not yet understand, but she felt it. A turning point. A step into a world she could not see but hoped to touch. The days leading up to the talent show passed slowly, yet each one felt important to Lena. Even though she could not see the calendar on the wall, she felt the time moving forward through the rhythm of her days. She woke up early, practiced her new melody, listened to the world around her, and tried to picture what the event might be like. Her mother often sat beside her as she practiced, saying little, but always staying close enough for Lena to sense her presence. One morning, while Lena played the soft beginning of her melody, she heard a familiar knock on the door. Her mother went to open it, and Lena heard voices, a warm greeting, footsteps, and then the gentle voice of the music teacher stepping into the room. He always carried a calmness with him, like someone who understood how to move slowly so he wouldn't disturb anything. "I wanted to check on both of you," he said kindly. "The show is almost here, and I know it can feel scary." Lena turned her head toward him. "I'm nervous," she admitted softly. "That's normal," he replied. "Everyone gets nervous before performing. It means you care about what you're doing." Her mother placed a comforting hand on Lena's shoulder. "She's been practicing every day?" she said. The teacher smiled. "I can hear it in her playing. The melody sounds stronger each time." He asked Lena to play it for him once more, and she agreed. She took a deep breath, placed her hands gently on the keys, and let the first notes rise. As she played, she forgot where she was. She forgot about the teacher, her mother, the talent show, and every worry she had held inside. All she could feel was the melody, the slow beginning, the rise of emotion, the heartbeat-like rhythm in the middle, and the soft, hopeful ending. When she reached the final note, the room fell silent. She could feel the stillness around her, as if even the air waited before moving again. "That," the teacher said quietly, "is the kind of music that comes from a place deeper than sight. You don't just play notes. You share something real." Lena felt warmth spread through her chest. She didn't know how to describe the feeling, but it made her want to play even more. After the teacher left, her mother helped her prepare a small bag for the next day. The talent show would take place at the town's community hall, and though it wasn't far, they wanted to be ready. Lena touched the simple dress her mother had chosen for her and smiled. She didn't need to know its color. She trusted her mother's choice. That night, she went to bed early, hoping sleep would calm her nerves. But her mind refused to rest. She kept imagining the hall, what it would sound like, how many people would be there, how it would feel to sit at a piano in front of them all. She had been inside the hall once before for a small school event, and though she couldn't see it, she remembered the sound of the space. It was big and open, with a slight echo. Even quiet footsteps sounded loud inside it. At one point, when she thought she might never fall asleep, her mother sat beside her. "You're thinking too much," she whispered gently. "I can't help it," Lena replied. "What if I freeze? What if I forget the melody?" Her mother took her hand. "You won't forget. The melody is inside you. You made it with your heart. Just trust yourself." Those words helped calm her. Slowly, her breathing settled, and she drifted into a light sleep. Morning arrived sooner than she expected. The air felt cooler, and she could sense her mother moving around the house, gathering things quietly so she wouldn't wake her too early. When Lena finally got up, her mother greeted her with a nervous smile that she tried to hide. "Ready?" she asked. Lena nodded, even though her stomach felt tight. She dressed carefully, letting her mother help her with the last details. She brushed her hair slowly, trying to keep her hands from shaking. After breakfast, they walked together toward the community hall. Lena held her mother's arm, listening to the sound of cars passing by, the rustling of trees, and the distant chatter of children heading in the same direction. The closer they came to the hall, the louder the sounds grew. She heard laughter, footsteps, and excited voices. It made her nervous, but she kept walking. Inside the hall, everything sounded different. The echo was real, every voice stretched slightly, bouncing off the tall walls. She could hear the clatter of chairs being moved, people giving instructions, and performers warming up their instruments or practicing their lines. Her mother guided her to a bench where performers waited their turn. Lena sat quietly, listening to the sounds around her. To her left, someone practiced singing softly. To her right, she heard a group of kids whispering and giggling. She felt a wave of nervousness hit her. Are they watching me? She whispered. Her mother squeezed her hand. They're just excited. No one is judging you. But Lena knew how people sometimes reacted when they saw her. She had felt their stares before. People often didn't know what to say around her, or they spoke too slowly, or they made awkward comments. She had learned to stay quiet and ignore it. A girl nearby whispered loudly enough for Lena to hear, "She's blind. How will she play? Do they guide her hands?" Lena's chest tightened, but she looked down and tried to focus on her breathing. Her mother leaned close. "Don't listen. They don't understand." The host finally stepped onto the stage and tapped the microphone. Welcome, everyone, to our annual community talent show. We have a wonderful set of performances today: music, dance, poetry, and more. The audience clapped, and the sound filled the hall like a wave. Lena felt it against her skin. The first performer went up a boy who played guitar. His music was lively and quick, and the crowd liked it. After him came a young dancer, then a group of friends performing a funny skit. Each time the crowd applauded, Lena could feel the weight of expectation pressing more heavily on her. She held her mother's hand tightly. The sound of the performances made her even more anxious. She wondered if her slow, emotional melody would be too quiet or too simple compared to the faster, louder acts before her. When the host announced a short break, the performers relaxed. Some kids walked around, others laughed with friends. Lena stayed seated, listening. The music teacher found her in the crowd and sat beside her. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Nervous," she admitted. "That's normal," he said. "I've taught many students, but only a few play from the heart like you do. Just remember why you made that melody. It isn't for them. It's your story. Let them hear it." His words helped steady her breathing. She nodded slowly. When the break ended, the show continued. Performers went up one by one, and the crowd enjoyed each one. Lena heard clapping, cheering, and even some laughter. Then, suddenly, the host said her name. "Next, we have a young pianist who has prepared a special melody of her own. Please welcome her to the stage." Lena felt her mother gently guide her to her feet. Her heart pounded so loudly, she felt it in her throat. The teacher offered his arm on the other side, and together they walked her toward the stage steps. The steps felt tall and unfamiliar under her feet, but she climbed carefully. When she reached the stage floor, she could feel the large empty space around her. The air felt different up there, cooler, filled with expectation. The teacher placed her hand gently on the side of the piano bench. She sat slowly, locating the keys with her fingers. The moment her fingers touched the familiar surface of the keys, some of her fear melted away. She could feel the entire hall grow quiet. Even if she couldn't see them, she could sense all the eyes watching. All the breaths held in that silence. She took a long breath. Her fingers settled into place. The first note weighted. She knew this moment was bigger than anything she had ever done. She knew there were people doubting her, and others waiting to see what she could do. But right now, none of them mattered. Only the melody mattered. She lifted her hands slightly, then let them fall gently onto the keys, and she began to play. The soft first notes floated into the air. The hall listened. And for the first time in her life, Lena felt like the world might finally hear her. The hall was so quiet that Lena could almost hear the stillness itself. She sat at the piano, hands hovering above the keys, and for a moment she wondered if the audience was leaning forward, waiting, or if they were sitting back, unsure of what to expect. She couldn't see their faces, but she could feel the soft pressure of their silence. It wrapped around her like a blanket that felt both comforting and frightening at the same time. She took a slow breath and let her fingers fall gently onto the keys. The first sound she created was soft and warm, like a whisper. She moved carefully, letting the opening notes rise into the air. In her mind, she pictured the melody flowing out like light, even though she had never seen light before. The beginning was always delicate, like someone telling a secret for the first time. At first, the audience did nothing. They simply listened, surprised by how quietly she began. But slowly, something in the room began to change. Lena felt it before she heard it. This was the space where sound mattered more than sight, and here she could sense everything. Every breath, every shift in someone's seat, every tiny movement. She didn't know it yet, but the audience had fallen silent, not because they were confused, but because they were already captivated. They had never heard a melody like this, soft, emotional, and full of something they couldn't describe. As the song moved from the gentle opening to the deeper, fuller notes of the middle section, Lena began to forget where she was. Her nerves faded, replaced by a calm concentration she always felt while playing. Her hands moved with confidence and memory, her fingertips guiding her across the keys with a familiarity she trusted more than anything. Her heart followed the rhythm she had created. Each part of the melody told a story she had never spoken out loud. It carried the loneliness she often felt, the quiet strength she had learned from living without sight, and the hope she held inside her, even when life scared her. To the audience, it felt as if each note reached out to them, touching something personal in their own hearts. They leaned in without meaning to. They forgot they were watching a performance. It felt more like listening to someone share their truth. A child in the front row stopped fidgeting and stared at her with wide eyes. A couple near the middle held hands tightly. A teacher stood near the back of the hall with tears forming. Even the students who had whispered earlier sat completely still, suddenly aware that they had been wrong to doubt her. But Lena didn't know any of this. She only knew the music. When the melody shifted to its gentle rise, her fingers trembled for a moment. This part was always a little harder, carrying a mix of sadness and hope. She took a deep breath and let her hands follow the pattern she had practiced for days. The hall didn't move. There were no whispers, no shuffling, only breathing. She had never heard a room so quiet. Then came the moment the teacher had always admired, the small, emotional lift where the melody almost seemed to speak. Lena played it softly, letting it rise and fall, like someone taking a deep breath after crying. The audience felt it immediately. Some people placed their hands over their mouths. Others blinked back tears. She couldn't see their reactions, but she could feel the air shift. Something inside the hall had opened. Something unspoken had connected them to her. When she reached the final part of the melody, her hands moved slower, as if she wanted to hold on to the music for as long as possible. She played the ending softly, letting the notes fade gently. It felt like saying goodbye to a dear friend. As the last note drifted into the air, Lena held her hands above the keys. She didn't move. She waited, uncertain. For a moment, the hall remained silent, a full, breathless, overwhelming silence. She wondered if she had made a mistake. Had they not liked it? Had she played something wrong? Her stomach tightened, and she began to feel unsure again. But then it happened. A single clap sounded. One person, then another, then two more. And suddenly, the entire hall exploded into applause, loud, full, echoing applause that washed over the room like thunder. Lena gasped softly. She wasn't expecting it. She felt the vibrations through the stage, the warmth in the air, the energy of a crowd moved by something she had created. The clapping grew louder, rising higher and higher, until people were standing on their feet. She didn't know what a standing ovation looked like, but she had heard enough events in her life to know what this meant. They loved it. Her mother was in the front row with tears streaming down her face. She covered her mouth with both hands, unable to believe the moment she was witnessing. She had always known her daughter's heart, but seeing the world discover, it felt like a miracle. The music teacher at the side of the stage had his eyes closed and smiled proudly, his hands coming together in applause as he watched her. The girl's hands trembled again, but this time from relief and joy. She rose slowly from the bench, unsure if she should bow or simply stand, but the applause didn't stop. It only grew louder. She whispered to herself, barely audible. They heard me. She couldn't see the smiles, the shining eyes, or the people turned to each other in amazement. But she could feel every emotion in the room. It wrapped around her like warmth she had never felt before. When her mother reached the stage, she took Lena's hands gently. "You did it," she whispered, her voice shaking. "You did it, my child. You played from your soul." Lena smiled, her chest rising with a feeling she didn't have a name for. It wasn't just happiness. It wasn't just relief. It was something deeper, something she had always wanted, but never said out loud. She felt seen, even without sight. The applause continued for a long time. Lena couldn't help but listen. She didn't want the sound to end. She stood there, hands clasped in her mother's, letting herself soak in the moment. When the applause finally began to settle, the host walked toward her. "That was beautiful," he said in a soft voice. "You've given everyone here something to remember. Thank you for sharing your gift." Lena bowed her head slightly. "Thank you," she whispered as her mother guided her off the stage. She heard people whispering, but this time they weren't whispers of doubt or confusion. These whispers carried awe, respect, and admiration. "She's incredible. I've never heard anything like that. How did she create such a melody?" The whispers followed her like gentle footsteps as she walked backstage. When they reached the small waiting area, Lena finally allowed herself to breathe fully. She had done it. She had faced her fear, trusted her melody, and given the world something that belonged to her alone. Her mother hugged her tightly. "I'm so proud of you," she murmured. The music teacher joined them, placing a gentle hand on Lena's shoulder. "You changed this room today," he said softly. "You made people feel something real. That is the power of true music." Lena wiped a small tear from her cheek. She didn't cry often, but today felt different. "I was scared," she admitted. "But when I played, it felt like the music knew where to go." "That's because it came from your heart," the teacher replied. As the talent show continued behind her, she sat quietly with her mother and listened. The applause for the next performers was kind, but it didn't shake the hall the way her melody had. People were still talking about her performance in hushed voices. Amazed by what they had witnessed, a group of students passed by, and one of them, who had whispered earlier, stopped and said shyly, "You were amazing." Lena smiled gently. She didn't feel angry about their earlier doubts. She understood that people often judge before they understand. By the time the show ended, Lena knew something inside her had changed. She had done something she never thought she could. She had stepped into a world full of eyes she could not see, but she had reached their hearts anyway. On the walk home, the breeze felt different, lighter somehow. Her mother held her arm carefully, but Lena walked with more confidence. "I didn't know I could make people feel like that," she said quietly. Her mother squeezed her hand. "Your music comes from a deep place," she said. "People can feel it. You don't need sight for that." As they walked, Lena lifted her face to the wind, letting it touch her cheeks. She didn't know what the future held or what this moment would lead to, but she knew one thing for certain. Her melody had reached the world, and the world had finally listened. The night before the talent show arrived faster than anyone expected. In the small apartment where the blind girl lived with her mother, the air felt different. It wasn't heavy or tense, but full of quiet hope. The girl sat at the edge of her small bed, her fingers gently pressing against the smooth surface of the wooden bracelet she wore, a bracelet her father had given her years ago. Her mother sat beside her, trying to hide her own nerves. She knew how big the day was for her daughter. She also knew how much this performance meant to her. It wasn't just about music. It was about telling the world she existed, that she had something to offer, that she was not someone to be pitied. Her mother brushed her fingers through her daughter's hair and said softly, "Try to sleep. Tomorrow will be a long day." But the girl only smiled, her eyes unfocused yet calm. "I'm not scared," she whispered. "Not anymore." And she meant it. Something inside her had shifted. The long hours of practice, the guidance of the old piano teacher who had appeared in her life like a quiet blessing, and the sound of the melody she had created had all built a confidence she had never known before. Her mother kissed her forehead and turned off the light. But the girl didn't lie down. She sat still, listening to the faint sounds outside the window, the wind brushing past, a distant dog barking, the hum of a passing car. She could hear the world in ways others didn't, and tonight it felt as if the world was speaking to her. The next morning, the girl woke up early. She dressed slowly, feeling the texture of her clothes to make sure everything was in place. Her mother braided her hair with gentle hands, and before they left the house, she wrapped the wooden bracelet securely around her daughter's wrist. "No matter what happens today," her mother said, "you've already made me proud." The girl smiled. She reached for her mother's hand, and together they stepped out into the cool morning air. The school auditorium was buzzing when they arrived. Students hurried around with costumes, props, and nervous energy. The smell of fresh paint mixed with the scent of perfume and the echo of footsteps. Even though she couldn't see any of it, the girl felt everything. Voices whispered, then hushed as she entered the backstage area. Some students recognized her. Some still didn't believe she could perform. Others had no opinion at all. They were too focused on their own acts. But a few watched her with a mixture of curiosity and confusion. The girl didn't mind. She kept her head slightly tilted, listening. Her old piano teacher was there too. He walked over, his steps slow but steady. "Are you ready?" he asked. "Yes," she answered without hesitation. He guided her to the piano backstage. "Touch it. Feel it. Let it remind you that it listens to you as much as you listen to it." She rested her fingers on the keys and inhaled deeply. The piano felt familiar, like an old friend waiting patiently. "Listen," he whispered. "Don't think. Just listen inside yourself." Her mother watched from a few steps away, her hands tightly clasped. She wanted to say something encouraging, but her voice was trapped behind the lump in her throat. Minutes passed. The show began. Act after act went on: stage dancers, singers, comedians, a group performing a skit. Applause came and went in waves. Moments of laughter faded into silence. The girl listened to all of it. With each sound, she felt her heartbeat steady itself. Finally, the host announced, "Next, we have a piano performance by a very special student. Please welcome." The girl heard her name echo through the auditorium. Her mother squeezed her shoulder. The teacher placed a hand on her back, guiding her toward the stage entrance. She could hear the shifting in the audience, the surprise, the curiosity, the doubt. She took slow breaths, feeling the air grow warmer as she approached the bright stage lights. "Take your time," her teacher whispered. Then he stepped back. The stage assistant gently led her to the piano stool. She sat down, letting her hands run along the edge of the instrument. She adjusted herself, placing her feet just right. Then she rested her fingers lightly on the keys. The hall grew quiet. Completely quiet. The girl inhaled deeply. Then she played the first note dot. It hung in the air like a drop of water falling into still water. The second note followed, soft but sure. Then another. Soon the melody came to life, gentle, hopeful, steady. She didn't rush. She didn't try to impress. She simply played as she had practiced, letting her emotions flow through her fingertips. People in the audience leaned forward without realizing. Some recognized the tune, but couldn't place it. Others felt something unusual in it, a longing, a tenderness, a warmth that came from more than just music. Her mother stood backstage, tears slowly forming. The teacher remained still, his eyes closed, listening to every note. The girl's face stayed calm. Her head turned slightly, as if she was hearing something far beyond the piano. She wasn't just playing the notes. She was speaking through them. She was telling her story. The melody grew stronger. It shifted from soft to powerful, then back to gentle waves of sound. The entire hall felt suspended in the moment. Even the students who earlier doubted her now stared in awe. The boy who had laughed at her earlier sat silently, his expression changing as each note reached him. Then came the part of the melody. She had composed herself, the part that held her heart, the part that came from nights of listening to the world, from moments of loneliness, from quiet dreams she never spoke aloud. Her hands moved with confidence, dancing across the keys. It didn't matter that she couldn't see. In this moment, she felt more than anyone else in the room. The sound wrapped around the audience like a warm light. People forgot where they were. They forgot about the show, the competition, the expectations. They only heard her as the final notes echoed across the hall. The silence held for several long seconds. No one dared to speak. No one moved. Then the applause erupted, loud, genuine, overflowing. People stood up. Some clapped with wide smiles. Some clapped with tears in their eyes. The praise washed over her like a wave. The girl sat frozen for a moment, unsure. She felt the sound more than she understood it. But when her teacher placed a hand on her shoulder, she realized she had done it. She stood up carefully, guided by the teacher, and bowed gently. The applause grew even louder. Her mother's tears finally spilled over as she whispered, "That's my girl." The girl couldn't see the standing ovation, the moved faces, the stunned expressions. But she felt everything she needed: the warmth, the pride, the acceptance. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel invisible. As she walked off the stage, the sound of the audience still echoing behind her. She knew something important had changed, not just in the auditorium, but inside her. Her mother hugged her tightly the moment she reached her. The teacher simply nodded, his eyes shining, and the girl smiled. She had played her melody, and the whole hall had listened. The applause was still ringing in the girl's ears long after she left the stage. She held her mother's hand tightly as they walked through the narrow backstage hallway. Her heart was still beating fast, not from fear now, but from something warm and new that she struggled to understand. It felt like the world had finally opened its doors to her. When they stepped into the waiting area, the energy around them shifted. People who once doubted her or barely noticed her were now staring, not with pity, but with amazement. She could hear the change in their breathing, the hush that fell as she passed. Her mother squeezed her hand gently. "They loved it," she whispered. The girl smiled softly. "Did they really?" she asked, still uncertain. "They stood up," her mother said, her voice trembling with pride. "The whole hall stood up for you." The girl paused, letting the words settle in her heart. She imagined the sound of hundreds of people rising to their feet. Even though she could not see it, she could feel it. And that feeling lit up something deep inside her. Before she could say anything more, her old piano teacher approached. His calm but warm footsteps were easy for her to recognize. "You did well," he said simply. The girl turned toward his voice with gratitude. "I just played what I felt." He nodded. And that is why it reached them. But before they could continue speaking, a sudden wave of voices rose around them. Students who had never spoken to her before now stepped forward. "That was beautiful. I didn't know you could play like that. You were amazing." The girl listened, unsure how to respond. Their excitement felt so new, so different from the usual silence or awkwardness she was used to. Her mother rested a gentle hand on her arm. "Just smile," she whispered. And she did, but not everyone in the room felt comfortable. Some students who had previously mocked her now stayed in the back, unable to face her. They whispered among themselves, embarrassed by their earlier behavior. One boy in particular, the one who had laughed when she first sat at the piano, stood frozen. The sound of her playing had hit him harder than he expected. He wanted to apologize, but he couldn't find the courage. The girl sensed his presence. She didn't need to see him. His silence and hesitation had a presence of their own, but she didn't hold anything against him. She simply let the moment pass. Soon, the talent show host approached her mother. "We'll announce the results shortly," he said, trying to contain his excitement. "But I think you should stay close." Her mother nodded politely. "We'll be here." As they waited, the girl sat on a wooden bench backstage. She lifted her face slightly, listening to the sounds around her, the whispers, the footsteps, the faint music from the stage as the next performer finished. Her fingers traced the edge of the bench. She felt calm now, almost peaceful. Her teacher sat beside her, not saying anything. He simply waited with her in quiet understanding. "Do you think I did good enough?" She finally asked. "Good enough for what?" He replied gently. She paused. "To make people feel something." He turned slightly toward her. "You didn't just make them feel something. You made them remember something they had forgotten." She thought about that. She didn't fully understand, but the way he said it made her heart flutter. A few minutes later, the show host's voice echoed through the speakers. "Everyone, please return to your seats. We will now announce the winners of this year's talent show." The girl stood slowly, guided by her mother's hand. They walked toward the wings of the stage. The teacher followed quietly behind Dot as she stepped into position. She heard the roar of voices filling the hall again. The audience had returned to their chairs. She could sense their energy, lively, curious, expectant. The host waited for the noise to settle before speaking again. "This year's talent show has been one of our best," he declared. "We've had dancers, singers, actors, and musicians. Every student who performed today shared something special. But one performer touched the hearts of everyone in this room in a way we'll never forget." The girl felt her breath catch in her throat. Her mother squeezed her hand, trembling slightly. "The winner of this year's talent show is—" The silence that followed felt endless. "The blind pianist who played her own melody." The hall erupted again, louder than before. Cheers, whistles, applause, it all hit her at once like a warm gust of wind. She froze, unsure how to react. She felt her mother's arms wrap around her tightly. Her teacher placed a steady hand on her back. "Go," he whispered. "This moment belongs to you." The host guided her onto the stage once more. She heard the echoes of joy all around her, felt the vibrations of clapping hands through the floor. She felt her cheeks warm as she smiled shyly. A trophy was pressed gently into her hands. She traced its shape with her fingers' smooth metal, solid weight. She didn't need to see it to know it was beautiful. "Would you like to say a few words?" The host asked Dot. She hesitated. Speaking to so many people felt more frightening than playing the piano. But something inside her told her she had to try. She stepped forward and took a slow breath. "Thank you for listening," she said softly. Her voice was quiet, but the hall fell silent to hear her. I can't see you, she continued, but I felt you. When I played, I felt your hearts. And that made me brave. I just wanted to share something that lives inside me. I didn't know it would reach you, but I'm glad it did. The hall remained still, absorbing every word. Thank you for giving me this moment, she said. A gentle wave of applause followed softer. More emotional. Her mother brushed a tear away as she guided her off the stage. Students gathered around again, congratulating her with warm voices. The atmosphere felt brighter, kinder. Later, when the hall began to empty, the girl and her mother walked outside. The evening air was cool, and a soft breeze touched her face. How do you feel? Her mother asked. The girl thought for a moment. Like I finally found my voice, she said. Her mother hugged her again. You did more than that, she whispered. You showed the world what you can do. As they walked toward home, the old piano teacher walked a few steps behind them, hands folded behind him, a small smile on his face. He had seen many students in his life, but none like her. For the girl, the night felt unreal. She had won the competition. She had touched people's hearts. She had stepped into a world that once seemed out of reach, but deep down, she knew this wasn't the end. This was only the beginning. The days after the talent show felt unreal for the girl. Everything around her changed, not in loud or dramatic ways, but in small, gentle moments that added up. People who once passed her in silence now greeted her when she walked down the school hallway. Some even stopped to talk, their voices warm and sincere. She couldn't see their expressions, but she could hear the difference in their tone. The coldness she had grown used to was gone. Her mother noticed it too. She held her daughter's hand proudly whenever they walked to school. The way other parents looked at them had changed. They no longer looked at the girl with pity. Now, they looked with respect. At school, teachers spoke to her more, asked her about her music, and encouraged her to join new activities. She wasn't sure how much she could do, but she listened. She felt their kindness, which was something she hadn't always felt before. The old piano teacher continued to visit her after school. He didn't speak much about the talent show. He didn't praise her over and over the way others did. Instead, he focused on teaching her new pieces, new techniques, new ways to let her feelings shape the music. The stage is behind you now, he said one afternoon, but the path in front of you is long, and you must walk it slowly. She nodded, understanding him in her own quiet way. One afternoon, the school planned a small celebration for all students who participated in the show. It wasn't a big event, just a gathering in the courtyard with snacks and music. The girl wasn't sure she should go. Crowds made her nervous. She couldn't see where people stood or where to step next. But her mother encouraged her gently. You deserve to be there, she said, and you won't be alone. So the girl went. Her mother held her hand as they walked into the courtyard filled with laughter and chatter. She immediately picked up the sound of music playing from small speakers, the crunch of snacks, the rustle of decorations moving in the wind. When students noticed her, their voices softened. She's here. Come sit with us. She heard their excitement, and it made her smile. A group of students walked up to her. She recognized some of their voices, but others were new to her. Your song. It made me cry, one girl admitted shyly. I didn't know someone our age could play like that, another boy said. You inspired me to try singing again, a soft voice added. The blind girl listened, touched by the honesty in their words. She didn't know what to say at first. She had never been surrounded by so many kind voices before. Thank you, she finally said. I just played what I felt. Another student asked, will you play again someday? Maybe at another show? Or for the whole school? She paused. She never thought that far. The talent show itself had felt like a distant dream until it happened, but the idea warmed her. "Maybe," she said softly, "if my heart wants to." The student smiled, even if she couldn't see it. She could hear it in the air around her dot as the evening sun slowly dipped lower. The principal walked up to her mother. "Your daughter has a gift," he said sincerely. "If she would like, we'd love to arrange a small music program for her in the auditorium. Nothing big, just a place for her to play when she wants to." Her mother turned to her. "What do you think?" The girl tilted her head thoughtfully. "Can I choose the songs?" "Of course," the principal said. She smiled. "Then I'd like that." As the courtyard grew quieter, the girl and her mother walked home. The teacher joined them silently, walking behind as he always did. When they reached the small apartment, the girl changed into her own clothes and sat by the window. She couldn't see the sky, but she felt the breeze coming in. She heard birds settling down for the night. She listened to the distant hum of the street. Her mother sat beside her. "Do you feel happy?" she asked quietly. The girl thought for a moment. "Yes, but it's a new kind of happy. Not loud, more like warm." Her mother brushed a hand over her hair. "You earned every part of it." They sat in silence for a while. Then the girl spoke again. "I want to keep playing, Mama, not because of the trophy, but because the music feels like a part of me now." "It always was," her mother whispered. The next few days became peaceful. The girl practiced the piano every afternoon. Not to impress anyone, not to prove anything, just because it filled her heart. The teacher showed her new scales and gave her gentle corrections. He guided her fingers when needed, but he mostly let her lead. One afternoon he said, "You will grow far, but don't rush. Music grows best when it's patient." She nodded. Another day, a letter arrived from the school administration. Her mother read it aloud. "They want to feature you in a small local newspaper," she said, surprised. "They want to share your story." The girl listened quietly. The idea made her nervous. She didn't want people to look at her differently. But she also understood something. If her story reached someone who felt alone or unsure of themselves, maybe it would help. "If it helps someone feel braver," she said, "then it's okay." A week later, a writer visited their home. She asked gentle questions about the girl's childhood, her love for music, her journey at school. The girl answered slowly but honestly. The writer didn't rush her. When the article was published, people in the neighborhood started approaching them. Their voices were warm when they spoke. "Your daughter is inspiring. She gave us hope. Her music touched us even through the story." The blind girl listened to every word. She didn't need the attention, but she appreciated the kindness. One morning, she woke up early. Something inside her felt restless, but in a good way. She walked to the living room and sat at the piano. Her mother, still half asleep, heard the soft notes begin. The melody wasn't the same as the one she played at the show. This one was new, gentle, dreamy, with a rhythm that felt like morning light. The teacher arrived later and listened quietly as she played. When she finished, he asked, "Where did that come from?" She smiled shyly. "From how I feel today. Like everything is new." He nodded slowly. "Keep that. That feeling will carry you far." Weeks passed, and her life became calmer. She still faced challenges, navigating crowded hallways, learning new subjects, dealing with people who didn't always understand her limitations. But she handled each challenge with more confidence. She no longer felt invisible. One afternoon, as she walked home with her mother, she said quietly, "I think I know what the stage felt like. Even though I couldn't see it, I could feel the people, the lights, the air, everything. Do you miss it?" Her mother asked. The girl smiled. "A little, but I'm not done with it. I'll go back someday, when I'm ready." Her mother squeezed her hand proudly. The sun was warm on her face. She lifted her head slightly, embracing the moment. The girl who once felt overshadowed by silence had now found a melody strong enough to change, not just her world, but the hearts around her. She didn't know where life would take her next. She didn't need to know. She just knew that as long as she had music, she had a path, and she would keep walking it, step by gentle step, note by honest note toward a future she could feel, even if she couldn't see.